Hey guys, so my last stream, it acted up on me for whatever reason, so I am doing this yet again. Let's see how this works out. So I decided to make this stream because I'm almost done repairing my vintage fur jacket, and I've been doing a lot of research about how to maintain it, how to repair it. And one of the things that I've been preaching to you guys and telling you guys to do is that if you guys do have any leather items or fur items, please maintain it. These items, you don't have to toss it around, toss it away every couple years. Sometimes I find that people, they think to themselves, okay, I'll just buy some cheap item, and then maybe it's only $10, wear it for a little bit, then after a couple years they throw it away, and they don't realize that if they had bought the more higher quality item and conditioned it, they would not have to fall into the trap of buying wallet after wallet, belt after belt, shoe after shoe, jacket after jacket. I've gone through so many jackets in my life, you guys, and the ones that are the most durable made, those are the ones that have lasted. And I feel quite nice to wear them because it looks good, it keeps me warm, and I look at pieces now because you guys know, right, I have been decluttering. When I look at things, I look at it and I say, can I repair this? How do I maintain this? And I like having that focus on my items. So leather conditioner, so you guys can see the top one is how it looks like with the leather conditioner. The bottom one is without the leather conditioner. This jacket I've shared with you guys was a vintage jacket, about 40 years old, had at least 3 owners. The person who donated it to the thrift store, the person who received it as a gift from a thrift store, someone bought it from the thrift store and gave it to them, and then also me. So by the time that I received this mink jacket, it was 40 years old and it had multiple tears in it. I've spent at least, I'd say, 6 hours sewing things, conditioning things, and then also add in all those hours of research trying to make sure that I bring it back to the quality, as high quality as I can, and make sure that this item lasts ideally for the next 40 years. I don't know if that's going to happen. My goal for this jacket is, I don't see it as just like a free fur jacket. I see it as, this is a responsibility for me. I think that I want to see if I can keep having this jacket till the time I'm like 70, 80 years old. When I pass away, I would like this jacket to either get rehomed to another individual, or alternatively be donated to an animal sanctuary, and the fur can be used to rehabilitate other animals. So by then, I think the jacket would probably be 80 years old, 80, 90 years old, hopefully. Quite some time. Alternatively, if you want, you could always bury it, but yeah. So while I was doing some research, I came across this. I was looking up fur coats just because, and I looked at this, and it says a white mink signature full-length faux fur coat for $600. It made me want to click on it. I clicked on it, and I had to see, what are the materials. Now, most faux fur coats, they're going to be acrylic. They're going to be some sort of plastic. And when you look over here, it says, oh, it's easy to care for your faux fur coats, spot clean, right? For thorough cleaning, do dry cleaning pile method. That means the solvent is used sparingly so fibers remain light and fluffy. Our high-end acrylic fiber is responsible for the silky touch and high sheen of our fabrics. It is the lining rather than the faux fur that calls for dry cleaning. Most satin linings require pressing to look well, which is difficult because faux fur cannot be exposed to high heat. Do not apply heat of any kind. Do you know what will happen if you apply heat to that coat? Because it's plastic fibers, it's going to be it's going to melt. It's going to start, fusing together because it's not a natural material. The other thing that I don't like about faux fur jackets is the fact that when you do wear a faux fur jacket, it is going to be shedding. All my jackets, all my fur jackets, I only have 2. My fur jackets shed, but when they shed fur fibers. Versus this is all plastic acrylic fibers. As a result of that, people always be preaching about microplastics and the little plastics ending in our waterways. The more people who have faux fur jackets, the more pieces of plastic you're going to see floating around in our oceans when people wash these things, right? If they bring it to the dry cleaners, more plastics in the ocean. It's unavoidable. And it makes me kind of scratch my head. And it makes me so disappointed when people wear faux fur, because sometimes people have this thought where they say, oh, well, I'm going to buy this stuff and I'm going to have it look realistic. And if I wear it, then yeah, it's like, I know I'm saving an animal. But the truth is that if you buy one of these faux fur high-end jackets and they do happen to look realistic, do you think the person who's maybe sees you on the street is going to think, oh, that has to be faux fur? No, they're going to assume that it's real fur. And most people, they're not going to talk to you and say, oh, yeah, well, just wondering, is that faux fur or is that real fur? See? So whatever message you want to send off about fur, you're not going to achieve it by wearing faux fur 100%. I also looked at the reviews for this one over here. Look at this. Fabulous faux furs. Does not look faux at all. Remember what I was telling you guys about? Ordered this to bring in a trip to Greenbrier in White Sulphur Springs. Temperatures went down to teens at night, 20s day, and boy was I glad to have this. Now I looked, before I read that more into it, right? I want to show you this really quick. So I looked into this vest. And when you look at the vest, it is 100% acrylic faux. It has satin underneath it, right? I thought to myself, how is this little itty bitty acrylic vest going to keep a person warm? Because I've given away faux fur jackets and it doesn't insulate me at all. It looks like it's really warm, but it's truly not. I've given away at least 3 jackets, including a synthetic down. And it was like a cheap comforter. It was not warm at all. Read the rest of this review. So the temperatures went down, 20s day, and boy was I glad to have this. I wore it under my leather coat on a carriage ride around grounds yesterday and was comfortable in spite of wind. My hands and nose was a bit burnt. So did you catch that? They wore a leather coat, which is way more insulating than this faux fur vest. And then they're saying it kept them warm. And I'm like, no, it's not the freaking fabric coat. I mean, the fabric acrylic faux fur vest. It's the leather jacket. And they're also on a carriage ride. Do you guys know what PETA thinks about carriage rides? They think it's very cruel because carriage rides are pulled by horses and they feel that horses are being exploitive. Now, I've read about it. I've known about PETA's things for years. I've been following them ever since I was in high school. I have actually donated to PETA in the past. Yes, I did donate to PETA in the past. But as I got older, I got into my 20s, and so I kind of thought to myself, like, I'd rather push for better animal welfare rather than complete elimination of animal products. Because at the end of the day, our ancestors, what did they thrive off of? They thrived off animal products. They went hunting. They went fishing. They wore leathers. Go to Alaska. What are they wearing? Are they wearing synthetics? No, they're wearing animal leathers and they're wearing furs. It keeps them warm. And something like that, I refuse to just kind of turn my back at it and say, like, shame on you Alaskans, Inuit, Eskimos for wearing leathers. Like, you should be wearing synthetics. And it's very, it's very elitist, and I hate that. So let's go over here. So on PETA's, they have a fur challenge over here. See this? So this is what they say in case you find any fur wearers. And I wanted to share this because I know some people, right? Some people will say to themselves, like, oh, okay, now let's talk about the fur people. First thing, what do? Find a fur wearer. Calmly approach them and politely ask them if you have a minute of their time to talk about fur. Okay, yeah, sure. Tell them fur is dead. Oh, surprise, surprise, fur is dead. I had no idea fur is dead. I also did not know tea leaves were made out of dead flowers and dead leaves. I hate to laugh at this kind of stuff, but it's like, if people think that this kind of stuff shocks me, it won't shock me at all. Now, I am very much aware about animal trappings. I'm very much aware about, how the industry is, but I'll also share that animals like coyotes, nutria rats, they're getting culled. So there's hunting seasons. People kill them because, hey, they want to protect their property. Hey, they got some farmland. The coyotes are eating their chickens. They're going to shoot the coyotes. Do I think that's right or not? If I was a farmer and I had a coyote coming onto my farm, killing my chickens and reinforcing as much as I can, they're still killing the chickens, I would be out there myself protecting my chickens. I would not be all like, oh, okay, please, Mr. Coyote, please walk away. Please get away from my farm. All you pack of coyotes, please, let's peacefully work things out, because they're predators. I understand that. They want to eat, they want to survive. I get it. So all this thing, right? So let's see, fur is dead. They talk about this stuff. I've heard about this. This is why I say I would not recommend buying new furs. That's just my personal thing. I have no problem with vintage furs. I have no problem telling people, hey, I think there's a lot of vintage furs out there. Maintain that, take care of that. It is up to you if you want to buy new fur, but I really don't see the point of having to buy new fur. I think for me, I can't really fault myself for wearing a coat and maintaining a coat that's 40 years old. But if I knew, hey, there was something that was going on about a new fur product, I would be a lot more apprehensive about it. See? If they tell you that they're wearing fake fur, thank them for not contributing to the abuse and slaughter of animal on fur farms. Okay. And if they become upset or hostile, it's important to remain calm. Politely tell them that you hope they'll reconsider wearing the skins of animals who suffered and were killed. Nope. I wouldn't be hostile. I would just say, what do you want me to do? Wear synthetic that doesn't degrade for the next 200 years versus my coat. I could just bury it in the ground in about 1.5 years. It'll be fully gone. Except the plastic buttons. That's it. See, ask them to ditch the fur. Please donate your fur to PETA or a local homeless or animal shelter. Oh, here's the part. If they're wearing a jacket with fur trim that's detachable, such as Canada Goose jackets, ask them to remove it. So the fur on Canada Goose, I want to tell you guys about this stuff because sometimes people look at Canada Goose and they think, oh, people just get the fur lining because it's stylish. No, Canada Goose fur coyote lining has a point to it. So this is how the fur line hoods work. So when you have no fur, you can see, right? You can see the wind. See, more loss of heat from the head. You see how close it is? Versus when you have the fur, it makes a bigger barrier so the cold wind doesn't go straight on your ears so much. That's the reason why you see this big puffiness, okay? I don't want you guys to think to yourself, if you're buying like some shoddy faux fur kind of thing that's all matted, like, oh, it's going to keep my face warm. It's not going to keep you as insulated as real fur. That is the truth. So when I saw this, right, it made a lot more sense to me. That's the reason why you see Eskimos, you see, people who are very, in Antarctica, they're wearing the fur-lined hood because they're freezing their butts off. And they know that if they don't wear it, they're going to be colder. I fully understand it. So if you guys, let's say, are approached by animal rights people and they say, get rid of your coyote fur trim, if you are anticipating being in a colder environment, don't get rid of that trim. Do not get rid of that trim because that trim actually has a feature. Would you rather be like this and say, I gave my fur trim to PETA, or would you rather be like this if you go over to Canada, let's say one day, and you're a lot more warmer? I rather have my fur-lined trim. So I don't have any Canada Goose over here, in case you guys are wondering. I'm just pointing it out because sometimes people see these fur trims and they think, oh, that person's so bougie. They just want to show off. I think it's a decorative thing, but it's very practical as well. You can see this person really embrace the fur because they have a fur little poof on top of their beanie over here. Look at this. These pedestrians in New York City, which is often the most progressive city in the U.S., are acting like cave people. Dang. Throwing that insults over here. Challenge your friends, tell people to get... They have a really big thing against the fur trim. See? And then they tell people... But what they don't focus on is they don't focus on the down feathers so much inside of the coat. Here's the thing. So, Canada Goose jackets are made out of down feather inside. It's not a synthetic lining. They do have synthetic lining, but I believe most of them are down feathers. You guys can look up the PETA down feather things. You see all these people like up in arms about the fur, but they don't approach the Canada Goose people and say, oh, give me your coat. I'll give you a synthetic instead because you have goose feathers inside of your coat. And if you want to stay warm, don't worry. We'll give you some like Primaloft or some kind of synthetic fiber fill inside, and that'll keep you adequate enough. Just wear more cotton. Just wear more layers and things like that. People buy Canada Goose, from what I hear, because it keeps them incredibly warm. I don't know anybody who's parted ways with a Canada Goose jacket. The people that I know who do have Canada Goose, they buy it and they don't buy any other jacket because they take pride in knowing that's the most insulating jacket that they have. Now, how does a Canada Goose compare to a fur jacket? I have no idea, but I do know that a Canada Goose jacket would be much lower maintenance than a fur jacket. Simply because you see that outer liner over there, you don't have to worry about having to brush the fur and things like that. My jackets shed a lot. That's one of the reasons why when you see, back in the olden days when people were wearing fur jackets, right? They would go into a restaurant, they would have like a coat closet, and then you would take off your fur jacket, give it to the waiter or something, they put in a coat closet, and that way you're not sitting down wearing your fur coat because you don't want the fur to get like all over the place. You want to protect your coat for many years to come. You don't want to like cause the fur to unnecessarily shed. So let's look over here. I'm going to close this window over here. And here is something by PETA saying, here's more faux looks. If I was on the street, I would not think that this unreal fur was fake. I would assume that this is real. I would say this is gorgeous. And I think most people would think that this is, they would not have a conversation with this individual. They would say, oh, that must be a real fur, and be on their way. Some people might actually buy real fur just because they see a really nice faux fur. Typically, when I look at faux fur, I can tell what is real or not because most faux furs look really cheap. Like something like this, you see the top, you see how plasticky that looks? Yeah, that's a telltale sign for faux. The other telltale sign is it looks really matted after a while. So, yeah, all of this stuff, unless I'm wrong, it's all made out of plastic. Plastic. You wash it, plastic. Walk around, plastic. Oh, what is this? Without harming the animals or environment? Hold up a second. What's it made out of if it's not harming the environment? Let's look this up. Is this made out of something other than plastic? Let's see. It's faux fur. Let's see, what's it made out of? Mod Acrylic, 100%. Okay, yeah, so what is Mod Acrylic? Let's look this up. Mod Acrylic is synthetic. Okay, we know that. Poor conductors of heat. Let's see. It's a synthetic polymer. Acrylic, so it's acrylic, so it's made out of plastic. Yeah, see, synthetic polymer. So I'm not seeing how they say this isn't harming the environment. If this thing broke off into millions and millions little pieces, and it would, with continued washings, it would harm the environment. It would go straight into our waterways. I hate it when they do this kind of greenwashing thing and they say, oh yeah, well if you buy faux, then you're saving the environment. It's like, no, you're much better off using things that's already in our society. There's a lot of vintage fur coats that could get rehomed. I'd rather have people buy used fur coats than go off and buy a synthetic faux coat any day. See all this stuff? So here's some companies. They said don't use fur over here, and I wanted to point this out. See, so by having these companies over here, they're trying to signal to people that fur is not fashionable. So I clicked over here on Balenciaga and I looked at this, right? Faux fur jacket. Now I want you guys look real closely over here. My problem with this is that when I was looking at this, look at this, $3,750 for a yellow faux fur jacket. And I thought, is this really just made out of plastic? What's it made out of? Let's see. 66% mohair, 34% cotton. So it doesn't have any plastic in it. Because what is mohair? Mohair is made out of hair from the Angora goat. See this? So yes, they got rid of the fur, but they're using Angora goat wool instead. That's a good way around it, actually. I don't know if PETA's catching that. I don't think PETA would be too happy because PETA is not happy with wool and they're not happy with fur. So good on Balenciaga saying, hey, we're not using fur, but we're going to use wool instead. And maybe PETA's just like looking the other way. They're not really looking into it. They should look more into it, right? They get a lot of donation money. The other thing that PETA is saying, and I'm going to switch over here, is PETA tells people to buy, where is it? See, so these are all the things over here. Oh, I might have clicked it away. Yeah, so PETA was advertising this one company over here. Let me show you this guy. Oh, I can't find it. But PETA was recommending this one company over here as luxury. Wuxley Movement. Look at this. Made from 100% recycled polyester. Okay, I understand a lot of things have polyester. But look at the prices over here. We're looking at $895 parkas. That is very, very close to a Canada Goose. I don't, like, maybe it's just me. Like, this one looks okay, but like this one, this Wuxley Movement, oh, it just, I don't like it at all. This does not look like a $695 parka to me. See? It looks like something that I would find at TJ Maxx or something. That's just me. But there are luxury vegan parkas in case that is your thing. I heard it's warm. I don't know how warm it is, but it's ultra warm. You can see it doesn't have that many reviews. Like if you look at Canada Goose versus Wuxley, look at this, 4 reviews, 2 reviews. Someone's buying it, just not very many people. And finally, let's see over here. PETA has this whole thing where they're accepting fur coats from people and they're donating it to the homeless because, look at this. They said that the only people who should have a fur coat should be the homeless. And it's just kind of makes me think to myself like, okay, so you want people to get rid of their fur coats, not use it for themselves, not keep it in their families, give it to the homeless. You think the homeless individuals are going to say to themselves, oh, yeah, let me make sure that I take care of this coat for a long time. And I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. I'm just saying it very upfront because a lot of these coats, ideally, you're supposed to keep them inside of cold storage. So all this stuff, right? It's like, I understand it, but then you're also telling people to give up their coats, buy a synthetic, and that just contributes more to, stuff that's going on in the environment. What I rather have is people say, we're not going to just make it for coats, just donate any of your coats, right, to help out the homeless. It's just, and the other thing too is that when they have this stuff, they're trying to send the message that only the homeless should be wearing fur. If you're a human being, you should be using something else. You should be higher class. You should not be a caveman, right? Remember how they were describing people in New York, right? People who wear fur are like cave people. So PETA's hopes is that maybe if they give the fur coats to the homeless, then it makes people think that fur is something that's associated with the homeless. It's not a high value item, but I just, like I said, I find it kind of heartbreaking because there are a number of people who probably have vintage fur coats from their grandmothers, from their moms, and they get caught up with this whole PETA nonsense, and then they say, oh yeah, I'll just have it go off to a homeless person and I'm gonna buy a synthetic instead. It's, maybe I'm just too sentimental about that thought. But if like, for instance, my grandma had a coat and my mom had that coat, I would not, even if I was vegan, I would not be all like, okay, I'll get rid of the coat. Even though they love this coat, even though there was so many memories and family photos with the coat on, I would just get rid of it and buy myself like a Wuxley Movement coat instead. Or a faux fur coat instead. Like, oh, no, that's just my opinion over here. No, I mean, like, here's the thing, right? It's not, I don't care what people think. I don't care because, like, people will say, right, oh, you shouldn't wear fur because society tells you or PETA tells you that's not a good thing. I am not embarrassed to wear fur. I have to think, right, what ensured the survival of the human race? It was fur. It was leather. It wasn't acrylic. It wasn't a synthetic. Those things are relatively new in the market, and those things don't degrade. So I'm not going to go ahead and say, like, oh yeah, well, it's okay, I'm better than that, and I'm not gonna, like, do that, and I'm just gonna buy a synthetic instead. It is stupid if you ever think that it is more humane for the environment to go and get a synthetic, because if you toss that synthetic into the landfill, it will not decompose for hundreds of years, versus a leather coat would, versus a fur coat would. I don't focus on just one being. I focus on the bigger picture here. Too many times people are just focused on, let's say, one fish, one cow. That's it, right? And then they tell themselves, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and save the life of a cow, and I'm never ever going to eat beef again. But what people don't focus on is their own health. They don't focus on the bigger picture here. And I've tried to go vegetarian, I tried to go vegan, and it messed with my mind big time. It's just like, I thought, like, maybe I could just live off of beans and fruit and rice, and I was not happy at all. Yes, it's actually much more sustainable to prolong the life of something that you have than just throw it away and then pat yourself on the back and say, "Oh, I have a synthetic. I'm proud of having a synthetic. Let me just throw away all the leather and all the fur just so PETA approves of me." Like, I don't need to have that approval. No, I'm not gonna do that with I draw the line over there, but I'm not, like I said, I think a lot of people come from this privileged position of being in, let's say, a first world country, and they don't realize, like, there's indigenous people, Native Americans, Alaskans, who Eskimos who wear this kind of stuff, and it's completely wrong, I think, for us to just shun them or just dismiss them as like Neanderthals, when all they're doing is they're just doing what they've been doing for a number of years. Like, is it really right for us to say, oh, okay, well, if you're living in Alaska, yeah, don't eat the salmon there, don't eat whatever you eat in Alaska. Why don't you eat berries? Why don't you eat, like, acai bowls instead? Why don't you go ahead and get some quinoa from Peru or something? It's like, that's such, like, that is such, that does not take into account what's there in the environment. See, I think sometimes people, they just get so caught up in the whole foods thing and the whole transportation thing that they don't really realize, like, how much fossil fuels, how much gasoline is used just to transport, let's say, bananas from Ecuador over to the United States. And then we ask ourselves, oh, well, why can't everybody just live like that? It's like, I think it's so much better to just kind of reduce your carbon footprint. And in my opinion, it is much more sustainable to have a coat that lasts you 30 years than buy 5, 6, 7, 10 coats over the next 30 years. And they're all synthetics, like, you donate them, and what happens? You think everyone's going to be in a rush to get your synthetic coat? Not really. A lot of people are going to go into Black Friday buying synthetic coats, maybe wear them for a couple times or a couple years, get rid of it, donate it. They think that someone else is going to have it. No, a lot of this stuff gets shipped off to third world countries, fast fashion kind of stuff, right? Think about that. And hell, right? I will tell you up front, if I was in Louisiana and I saw, people were going and hunting nutria rat, I will go ahead and participate in them myself. I would not be ashamed of saying, hey, you know what? This is an invasive species. I don't care what PETA says. This thing is eating up the Louisiana marshlands. Let me dispatch this stuff myself. Let me bring it over to some kind of leather place, and I'll have a hat made out of it. And I would not feel any guilt about it. Nobody would really care, I think. Unless you really want to say, oh, well, you should have protected the nutria rat. It's like, what's more important, marshlands or a rat that has a $6 bounty on it? In my opinion, it's the marshlands. But people like to like lump everything as like some cutesy animal. They don't see it as like the bigger picture. Like the whole thing about invasive and non-invasives, right? I know if I did a stream like that and I said, hey, I'm on a boat right now and I'm trying to hunt rats and I want to, this used to be considered a desirable fur back in the old days, and I want to support local businesses, get the thing, harvest it, bring it to some kind of furrier for them to make it into a hat for me. I know people would be so disgusted by it, and then they would say, oh yeah, that's so gross. Yeah, I'm just gonna go get my made in China synthetic hat, and that's more eco-friendly. It's like, no. 98% of nutria rats, if I remember correctly, they just go to waste, and it's sad. But what can I say? People wonder about, why are there so much clothes getting destroyed, or, why are we shipping so much synthetics over to third world countries? It's because we have so much clothes and not enough demand for it. You can't stop people really from shopping if they feel like they always want to go for like the better and longer lasting item. But if someone has a quality item, or if they feel that it's something that they want to take care for a number of years, I have no problem with that. So yeah, I know with what wearing fur signals. I know what society conditions people to feel and think. And I know it's like people are supposed to say, ew, fur, gross, leather, okay, but fur, gross, disgusting. It's like, no, there's nothing disgusting about it. If our ancestors did not wear fur or leather in the old day, they probably would have froze to death. A number of them would have. Like, tell the people in Russia, oh yeah, don't wear fur anymore. You don't need fur. That's why when I saw that whole PETA thing and they're saying like, I rather go naked than wear fur, I'm thinking, okay, let's drop y'all off in Russia. Let's see how you guys fare. You don't need any synthetics. Just go naked in Russia, or go off into the Antarctic and tell me how future generations fare. It's very cold for me to say it like that, but I just say it how I see it. It's like there's something extremely wrong when we just shit on natural materials like this, and when we see things that have been in our, let's say, families for many of years, and we just let some group like PETA get in. And I know how this video is gonna be taken, and I know that people are gonna tell me go vegan, go vegetarian, save the animals, but I need to save myself before I save any animals. And I think to myself, all those little minks on that coat, I'm gonna have to spend time out of my life to maintain it, and I take a keen interest in it, because I think to myself, yes, they all died about 40 years ago, but I want them to live on as a coat or as a fashion item for a number of years, and I want to have conversation about it. I don't want to just tell people like, oh, hey, yeah, this is just like a fur coat. I want to have people understand why I wear it, and it shouldn't really be that big of a deal. Like, nobody asks a person, why do you have a leather wallet? It's just like, oh, okay, that person has a leather wallet, like, no big deal. But there's something about fur coats that I think in American society especially, it just gets this like response, and it's like, okay, yeah, just wear a faux instead. It boggles my mind, because people preach about environmentalism, but they don't really care truly about environmentalism. I think it's more like they just want to feel like they're doing what society tells them to do. Because if that was the case, right, we would be shunning all faux furs. We would be saying, why do you even want to have anything that looks like a faux fur? You should not wear anything that resembles it. Just wear cotton, just wear linen, and yeah. Or if you die in the winter, just know you died for the animals. That would even be better. That's the way I see it. It's like, hey, you wanna basically raise that little flag that says, okay, you don't need any animal products in your life, and you don't want to be dealing with synthetics, then you're going to have a really hard time, because it's either animal product or synthetic. And like I mentioned, synthetic is not biodegradable. So yeah, I will talk to you guys later. I already knew how this chat was going to come out. And like I said, I don't care what Hale thinks about me. If Hale saw me on the street, I would still wear my fur coat, because you cannot live your life just trying to conform to what people want, right? You got to make your own choices, kind of thing. And I make my stream talking about this stuff because as we get into Black Friday, I know you guys are going to see a lot of things like synthetic this, faux that, synthetic this, and I really think that if you want to have an item that will last you for a number of years, my personal recommendation would be going with leather, fur, down feather. Very insulating stuff. I take care of my down feather gloves a lot. I look at it, I make sure I don't snag it on anything. I never lose those gloves. I bought one pair of down feather gloves, and I don't take it for granted. Every time I wear them and they keep my fingers warm, I'm always very thankful to the down feathers, or to the geese feathers inside of it, that it insulates me. So hopefully I have those gloves around for many years to come. If they get a tear in them, I'm going to repair them. I'm not going to just throw them away. I'm going to try to find a fix for them and have them last as long as I can. Either that, or I'll try to repurpose the down feathers inside. That, in my opinion, is a lot more environmentally friendly than just saying, I bought some cheap gloves. Oh yeah, they're synthetic. They're not that warm. Okay, yeah, these gloves suck. Let me buy another pair of gloves. And you see people, right? They have so many freaking winter gloves for whatever reason, and some gloves are like total crap. And I just think to myself, like, just go with down feather. Down feather, you can't go wrong. I love down feathers very much. I love wool very much. I love leather very much. And fur, I don't want to say I love it, but I am appreciative of it. There is, I've had, like I mentioned, I had synthetic coats. The wind goes right through them. Versus if you have something like a fur coat, the wind won't pierce through it. I've ridden on the back of a bike in a wool coat, and the wind just cut through it. I felt really cold. I mean, it was kind of insulating, but it didn't protect me all the way. Versus when I had my fox fur coat on, I would not recommend going on the back of a bike with those things, but when I had it on, I realized, I was like, man, it feels like the wind can't cut through this coat. And it was very eye-opening to me. It's just like, that's the thing that people don't understand. They don't see it as, hey, this stuff is super insulating. They just see it as, PETA tells me what I should feel. PETA tells me that an animal died, so I can't wear that stuff because PETA says it's wrong. It's like, screw PETA. Screw PETA. PETA voiced their message. And, I heard it. I donated to them, like I said. And I move on with life, keeping that kind of stuff in mind. But I don't feel guilty about it. It's hard for me to feel remorse about certain things when I look at something and I say, man, this thing's been around for 40 years, had several owners, and I want to make sure that hopefully I'm not the last owner. Hopefully as the years go on, I still have that thing. And that in my opinion is the mark of having an item that is truly quality, something that you look after, you don't take for granted, and it serves you well. And if Hale wants to go through 50 jackets or so, synthetics, or buy that other jacket, to each their own kind of thing. But I like my jacket, and I think it keeps me warm. And every time I have to do a repair, I just kind of look at it and I say, that's what happens, when you have an item that's natural. It decomposes, and that's not too bad for it to decompose. I have a little hobby too. So, you guys take care. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Let's see. Horses over here. I do know that people have horses. People do race horses. People eat horse meat. It's like we cannot go through that whole thing in life where we just kind of turn our backs on culture, in my opinion. There are some things that I think are unnecessarily cruel. But if you are, let's say, breeding horses and you're raising them for horse meat, I don't see anything different than raising a chicken and having it slaughtered for their meat. You see, like I'm not one of those people where I'll say, oh yeah, the life of a horse is more valuable than the life of a chicken, just because, you know, if you're breeding two animals for food purposes, I cannot jump onto the whole bandwagon where it's like in the US, oh yeah, there's no problem killing a chicken, but the horse, you can't do that. That's barbaric. See? Sometimes people, like, I never understood that. I never understood why we place more priority over some animals for food versus the others. And I say that with a very, very open mind. If it's an animal that is endangered, that's in low numbers, then I can understand why people would be up in arms. Like if someone was eating like wild tiger meat, right? I would be against that 100%. But if it's something like you're breeding, I don't know, you're breeding beaver to eat, and I think the Native Americans eat beaver if I remember correctly. But if you're eating like beaver, or let's say you're eating rabbit to eat, because you know they do serve rabbit in some restaurants, and then you use that rabbit, right? You use that rabbit for meat, and then you use the pelts for a jacket or a hat or a throw blanket. I'm not going to fault the meat producer. I'm not going to fault the farmer for raising rabbits when the meat is going to be eaten by a person, and then the pelt is being used for like a jacket. Like I refuse to do that kind of thing. Same thing with the mink. You know, people give crap about the minks, but the fact is like you raise the minks. Afterwards, what do they do with the poop? They use the poop as fertilizer. They use the bodies as they use it to produce mink oil, and then they use it to, you know, for pet food and stuff. So it's not like all these mink bodies are just being tossed around and they're just ending up in like a landfill. They're being utilized. You know, you don't want to, if you're producing like all this stuff, you want as much as you can being used in different products. Same thing with codfish. Like nobody talks about codfish, but there's codfish liver oil, there's codfish the meat, there's codfish products being used from that cod. It's even nobody's up in arms about the life of the cod, right? It's crazy. So it's like people are selectively choosing what they consider to be a valuable animal versus what's not. And I think part of it is like we kind of look at some animals and then we think of Bambi. You know, we think like, oh, well, I remember there was Thumper, and I remember, you know, I watched a Disney movie and there was this and this and this. And it's like you're humanizing these animals to a point where if their fur or if their feathers are being used, then you think like, oh, that person is like that's so grotesque. But when it comes down to a cow, like nobody blinks an eye. Right? Cow leather. You think anyone like cares about cow leather being used? Now, this is the thing, right? If I had a cow leather fur, right? Because jacket of sorts, people will be all up in arms. But if I had a cow leather jacket, just the leather itself, I don't think people would really care. It's kind of strange, you know. It's like once you got the fur, right? Because fur is a hair attached to the skin being the leather. Then people just get all pissed off about it. But if you just have the leather itself, like ostrich leather, right? Does anyone really care about the ostriches so much? No, not really. Does anybody care about the emus so much? No, not really. You know, there's a beauty product called emu oil. I've heard really good things about it. I was looking up about it for eczema, and people don't care about the emus being killed for the emu oil. Nobody cares about that stuff because it's like it's out of sight, out of mind. But once you bring in other animals, like the cute little minks, like the little ferrets and stuff like that, chinchillas, it's like, oh, you animal, you monster. It's kind of like misplaced. Rabbit fur is mostly used for boot line. I don't know what rabbit fur is. Rabbit fur, I've seen it on coats. I think rabbit fur, what is it? Rabbit fur is used for small little accessories like pouches or something like that. Maybe hats. I don't have any rabbit fur items. Not that I'm aware of. Actually, no, I take that back. I have back in Hawaii, I have a rabbit fur shawl. I think that was from an estate sale, but I'm not too sure. I've never worn it. I didn't buy it, but I think it's rabbit fur. Either way, it's like I have no use for that freaking shawl. It was like $5, I think. It was from a estate sale. but I never bought it. So let's see over here. Yeah, see? Like this, look. Codfish. I had a picture where they said all the stuff made out of codfish. See? Oh, here we go. See? So, codfish, right? You can make cod liver, fish liver products. You can use the heads for maybe soup or something. Enzyme used for cosmetic, hygiene, pharmaceutical products. Fish liver oil, enzymes. Fish leather, right? The skin. You can use eggs for caviar. You can use the tissue for nerve regenerative products. Hand and foot creams, gelatin, beauty collagen. Like, all this stuff. Nobody I know has ever said, don't eat codfish because codfish is cruel. They're using the skins for something, and they're catching the fish, and you know these fish are dying. Like, you think anybody who's using who's taking a pharmaceutical capsule is questioning this stuff? No. You know, hand and foot creams, that kind of stuff. Like, oh yeah, watch out because you know a codfish. Nobody cares. Nobody cares because it doesn't look like Thumper or anything like that. People care more about the lives of a furry, cute animal than they do care about the fish overall. So leather is a byproduct where animals are stunned. Most fur comes from China, which has industrial scare production, zero animal cruelty. Not on the right side here. No. Do you know where... Okay, look. Have you ever seen slaughterhouse footage, Hale? Because I've seen probably more slaughterhouse footage than you have. I've seen some really terrible things. Not all animals who are killed in a slaughterhouse get killed instantly. You know, you think that they're getting stunned and then they don't feel pain. It's like you have to stun them multiple times. Sometimes, right, what they do is they don't even stun them. They just like hit them on the head with like a hammer or a bat. And that's it. I've seen it where... in some places, like in Mexico, I saw the slaughterhouse footage, and I don't really want to share it, but it was pretty freaking horrifying. You can tell that they were rushing into it, and definitely animal welfare standards wasn't being met. Did that stop me from consuming animal products? No, because I think with anything, right, you have things where you'll have some atrocities happening. But you got to be mindful about it. And that's why I don't take meat for granted. You know, you don't see me be all like, oh, this is just a piece of meat. I understand fully that that's an animal that had to die just so I can receive nourishment. So, yeah. Let's see. Fur comes from China. Not all fur comes from China. There's actually U.S. produced fur. So let's see. Coyotes is one of them, too. I don't recommend people buying fur from China. I think that, yes, I do have concerns about animal welfare there. But I am very much for animals that are being hunted that are deemed as invasive species. So let's see. Fur caught in U.S. Let's see. See here. See? Fur farms in China. Know where your fur is coming from. See? Fur industry. Here we go. Mink farming. See this? You actually have to take care of your animals well for these kind of stuff. You know why? Because if the fur is not up to quality, if the animal's not being fed right, then it's going to manifest itself in the fur. The animal's not going to be as big. The fur's not going to be as shiny. So all that stuff, you know, you have to think about that stuff. That's what some people, they don't realize. Like when they look at fur, they just see it as, oh, maybe these people are treating the animals like crap. But if you want to receive top dollar for your farmed fur, you have to take care of those animals. Like if the animal dies early on because of mistreatment, you can't make a sale, right? Let's see what happens. Let's find it. See this? So this is what I was talking about. Right here. See? Oil, fertilizer, nothing is wasted. It's also used for, what was it? See? It's also used for crab bait. So don't think that if you buy mink fur, and this is just my opinion, that it's like all the mink stuff, all the mink meat will just go to waste. It won't. They actually, you know, you have to try to stretch those resources out. Look at this. In producing 100,000 mink pelts a year, one farm in Wisconsin feeds its animals 2 million pounds of expired cheeses and 1 million pounds of damaged eggs. So all those eggs that can't be sold at the supermarket, they recycle it by feeding the minks. And in return, the mink pelts are used for fur products, and then the mink meat is used for crab bait, wildlife, zoo, aquariums, compost, pet food, fertilizers, all that stuff, right? Poop is used as fertilizer, all that thing. Well, leather is just as fur, just with the hair sheared off. Yep. But people see, Anya, the thing is like people like to think that if they don't buy fur, then the animal will be saved. But for some of these industries, like they use the animal for other things, right? Like if you don't buy rabbit fur, then the rabbit won't be killed. It's like, well, the rabbit is used for meat. So yeah, I mean, like look at cat food, for instance, right? Oreo eats lamb meat because chicken and turkey he has an allergy towards it. So every time he eats, it's always going to be lamb meat in there. What is made out of lamb? Wool is made out of lamb, right? Sheepskin, that kind of stuff. All that lamb meat is the sheepskin, and the wool is all a byproduct of it. So when I talk about this stuff, right, when I talk about, let's say, sheepskin and things like that, I don't feel bad about it because very little sheepskin is produced from all the lamb. Out of like the millions or billions of lambs that are killed every year, only 2% of that is used for sheepskin because there's not too much demand for sheepskin. Not everybody out there who eats lamb has a sheepskin rug, for example. So if I have a sheepskin rug, do I feel bad about it? I'm like, no, I don't. There's so many lambs, it's like the sheepskin just goes straight into the landfill, or it gets, I guess, processed into something else. I don't know I guess like the sheepskin, if you don't use it as a rug, you can use it maybe for an Ugg boot or something, or some kind of sheepskin something. I don't know. Let's see. Lamb, sheepskin. Let's see. What's that used for? So you can use it as, let's see. See this stuff? Oh, there's Ugg boots over there. Saddle skin, let's see, tack linings, automotive seat covers. Oh yeah, I remember that. Gloves, hats. Oh look, they even use it to treat and prevent pressure ulcers. See that? And then back in the day, back in the old world, let's see, the French use them, Ukraine, the Spanish, the English. All this stuff. Here we go. See, no sheep are slaughtered specifically for their skin. It's a byproduct of the meat industry. They have no real value unless they're hand. Fewer than 1 in 200 sheepskin, 0.04, not even 1%, you guys. 0.045% are tan. See this? You guys might have seen me do a stream about taking care of sheepskin. I use a cat shampoo and a cat brush on it. All this stuff, right? So now when people eat meat, they have all this byproduct stuff. And so don't give people crap for having sheepskin, because a lot of this stuff is just getting thrown away. Let's read this. That is so weird, those leather hats. Yep, this is what I'm saying, see? So a farmer, when they sell, let's say, an animal, when they get it harvested, they want to sell as much as they can. So the skin, the fur, the meat, all that thing. Oh, that's the one thing I don't that's the one thing I don't eat. I don't like eating veal. That's I draw the line at veal. I don't like eating veal. I looked that up and I thought it was very cruel. So veal is something that I'm not for. Oh, look at this. Recycled leather. Vegetable tanned. Okay. I'm not a big fan of fabrics for shoes. And all that stuff. Wow, look at this. Archaeologists find leather items dating back to 12,000 years. Makes me wonder, how can it stay around for 12,000 years? Oh, a nutria rat. There's a musk. Yeah, a musk. Let's see. There's this one. There's a muskrat. And then there's a nutria. So the one that I talk about that I am totally down for dispatching myself is the nutria, aka the copu. See this? Destroy the banks of ditches. See? Invasives. You can actually eat them. I remember there's this one guy who was trying to market nutria, or he was trying to get people to eat this stuff. Kind of like the Asian carp. That's another invasive. See this? Swamp rats. It's like New York rats, but on steroids. See how big these guys are? Anybody for to protect them? I don't think so. So, I'm gonna get going. I'm going to go eat my lunch. I think I'm probably gonna have salad and fish, or salad with chicken, one of them. So, I will talk to you guys later. I don't see myself making another one of these videos in detail so much for a while, but I think, like, if you guys are interested, you guys can always ask me questions about this stuff. I try not to focus so much on speciesisms. I try to see it as a numbers game, and I try to think overall, what is better for our environment? Is it better for us to have a bunch of coats, or is it better for us to just maintain 1 or 2 coats? And obviously I'm on the latter. Again, I have no desire to having a big fur coat collection, because the more coats or the more fur items I have, the more maintenance I have to do, right? I have to look and inspect everything. If it breaks, I have to repair it, find a solution for it. I don't want to be one of those people that just carelessly throws things away. So when I do these kind of repairs, I take it very seriously. And I think there's something very, very, more of a responsibility, having to take care of some item that's older than you, or older than me in this case. So I will talk to you guys later, and you guys take care, and I will talk to you later. See ya.